Right, I think we're just on top of the hour, so maybe we can kick things off. So again, just morning and welcome everyone. See, Cella's just coming on. Morning, Cella. And yeah, we can get the session going. So again, a special welcome to Oscar. Wonderful to have you back today. Thanks for your time. We really appreciate it, and everybody else as well. Morning, Karina. Yeah, I'd like to kick the session off. Maybe Trevor, you'd like to pick up and get things going from your side.
No, well, not really. There's no one on this forum today that I want to talk to in any way. Hey, Oscar, how you doing, my boy?
Very well, very well. Moved places and I'm looking very good. I'm like on a ship now. If I look around, I'm like properly on a ship. There's the sea behind me.
That's your home training base, huh?
Yeah, my new one. Just a mate of mine on the water.
All right, Oscar, so listen, we don't have a 5-hour session like you do on a Monday morning. This is a 30-minute session. So just so that everyone can get to the point here and work with you. In fact, I've got a couple of pics that I'll show you if there's a moment towards the end of the session. But yesterday I was listening in, I came in late, sort of midday. Some of us have work to do. Not as retired as you are, and I came into your session where you were talking big match temperament, and I think that fitted in so well with the sort of direction we've been talking. We're starting to drill down into what has made people who they are today, and we're starting to hear about their younger days, etc. You touched on your old man. And the influence that he had on your life and how that connected to big match temperament. And I want you to connect two words for me, please, Oscar, or for us as a group. And the one is competitiveness versus today, where people are starting to say, hey, it's no longer about competition, it's all about collaboration. So I don't want to influence you where I am at the moment, but maybe just try and relate your competitiveness as opposed to where the world seems to be going in social networking and collaboration and all that sort of thing. But starting off with the influence that your old man had on you and big match temperament, etc.
Yeah, I think, I mean, those are very valid points. And I think the biggest difference is whether you're going to be a team player or an individual person. I mean, that is the big thing. And they fit very close together because collaboration, you can still have BMT, and then you just pull the whole team along with you, so that's the important thing. I think so for all my life, and I started when I was like 12 or 13 racing to win all the time, because my father said, if you win, you get credited, you get all the spoils of winning, and that's how it started. But yesterday I saw a photograph of me when I was 8 or 9. I was already wanting to be a winner, and I think it came from when I was watching my father when I was 4, 5, or 6, watching my father winning and see the accolades and see the admiration people had for him. It sort of rubbed off on me, and that was the way I kept for the rest of my life. It's amazing. So it was something that really vivid imagination. My father always used to say, if they were racing down Limgani River, and Trevor will remember it, and the ducks used to fly up first, and you say, oh, and everybody say, oh, your father's not going to be winning, and my father will be winning, and we were on the banks there at 3 or 4 years old or 5 years old, and then everybody said, oh, no, he won't win, and then he came in first. And I think that rubs off right on the start, and it depends on how you take it. Some people will go and say, oh no, this is too much hard work. I see how hard the father trains every morning up at 5 o'clock, and every evening he comes back late because he's got a full day work in those days, and then train in the evening, coming home at 8, and then he's tired and grumpy. And I think it's just the way that you see and what you think is going to make your life fulfilled. And my life was fulfilled by winning everything I entered. I don't care whether it's tiddlywinks, business, anything. But the big thing you've also got to learn is to have the collaboration with your team members and your fellow people around the world. And I think, and it's a tough one to work on, is that you don't want to play down other people because, and the other thing is you want to pull them up because too many people, I hear this all the time where they say, I've tried my best. I know, and they don't know that their best would be a lot better. And that's the BMT I'm talking about. It doesn't have to be that you're the world's best. You've got to be much better than everybody else expected you to be. And that's where I talk about BMT. I love it when people do their best and they just go one above that. Then you know that you've achieved your BMT moment, whatever it is, sports, social media, whatever. I hope that helps, Trevor.
So on my machine, it says my speaker is not working. Just give me a thumbs up
Working.
if you can hear me. You can. Okay. So BMT, big match temperament, just in case we haven't caught these little acronyms. What I'd like to just get through is you were talking again, and I'm reminded of big match temperament when you turn around and say, hey, tiddlywinks, that you just wanted to win from tiddlywinks. And I'd love you to just tell the story of what happened when you were sitting on the banks of the Westfield School as a sort of 15-year-old, 16-year-old in the fourth or fifth or sixth team rugby, and what happened to you and how BMT sort of played a role in things not related to where you were destined to become a world champion.
Yeah, so that was another perfect example is that, and I think, again, it all stemmed back, and that's why your upbringing is very important, and it's important, your people that you follow, what you take out of them. You know, you can have me sitting here talking like this, but it's what you take out of this when you leave the group session is how you made it. And that was an interesting thing. So there I was, and I never forget, I was in the end of standard 8, so I had 3 more years of school, and by then I was already double Springbok, senior Springbok for canoeing and life-saving in South African schools, water polo. I was the bee's knees, but I never got any respect from my fellow students at Wessel Boys High. So I was sitting there in the tuck shop. You remember the old days, always those jam donuts, the jam and cream donuts. You used to go and get them, and I was sitting and I was speaking to my close mates, and I'm one of these people, when I set a goal, I don't keep it under my wraps. So if I don't achieve it, nobody even knows that I didn't achieve. I said, boys, this rugby thing, I can't believe every Saturday I have to go and watch these guys play rugby. They're not in the same league as me. How does this happen that I have to go and watch them play rugby? And they're getting all the accolades. Here I'm a Springbok, I'm the top of the pops, and I'm getting nothing. So I said, okay, boys, from this day on, I am going to not make the first team rugby, which is the big thing. I'm going to play for Natal. And as it happened to be Craven Week, and as it happened to be meeting Doc Craven himself. So again, it's the end of the day. If I didn't have that upbringing, I don't know if I'd risen to the bait to say, listen, this is rubbish. Why do these people get the accolades I'm not getting? So what I did, I had a big beam in my house, so it was very hard, and I started jumping every day, running, and of course, we started. Eventually, I was in the first team, and then from the first team, I got picked for the Natal School trials, and I was very lucky. It was at Kings Park, and the trial was all day, and because I was so fit, I was the only guy running, so they had to put me in a team. But again, I set those goals, BMT, again, from C team and third team and fourth team to be Natal schools. So many people in life will only set it at the first team rugby. They end up third team. They don't tell anybody. They're very happy. I set it at Natal schools. I made the team. Therefore, school being the first team wasn't even a big deal. Now I was the hero in the school team. In fact, in those days, I was the war cry, all centered around me. Everything centered around me. From being a nobody, I was the somebody. Again, in this small little fish in this big pond, or the big fish in a small pond, because being school first team shouldn't be a big thing when you're already a Springbok and already world champion at that age anyway. So again, I think it's how you take people's teaching, and people's teaching you and teaching you what to do and how to motivate you. I think it's very important how you take things out of what you learn from all the famous people out there doing motivational talk and everything. Some people grasp it and grab it and run with it. Other people say, oh, no, that's too tough for me. I'll just stay back. And and they keep their status quo, and they never achieve what they should achieve, and what everybody wants to achieve, and what they, again, your peers also know how good you are, and that's also important, to work with friends, collaborate with friends, to say, listen, I'm here, I'd like to get there, help me. And it's always that cry out. I think it's very important to cry out to other people to help you, because it's always more power and more strength in team and collaboration than on your own.
Great, thanks, Oscar. I think some great points and insights there. I see there are a few questions that have come up in the chat box, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to whip through the group quickly and give everyone a chance to make a comment and perhaps ask a question. So let's start with the new face on our forum this morning. Conrad, good morning, welcome. And if you'd like to unmute your mic and if you have a comment or a question, please go for it.
There we go. Can everybody hear me? All got me, excellent. Oscar, well, thanks for your input. It's fantastic hearing your story and having a BMT mindset. One of the questions that was put out there is, somebody did ask, just got to the question, I think we will sort of see, is BMT in the moment, or is it sustainable over a long term? My answer to that is, I think BMT is having a winning mindset all the time. For me personally, losing is just not an option. I think everything in life is a challenge and needs to be seen that way. It seems like with what you just said to us, you've got a very similar mindset. Is life a challenge for you when you see things, or is it mostly sport, or is everything like this in your life?
No, it's a very good question, and I sort of try to get to make that point, is that everything in life should be the same. I mean, as I say, Trevor probably told you that I'm fighting cancer, and it's uncurable. It's uncurable, but my goal now is to live long enough so that they find a cure. So that's my thing. So I said, okay, I've just got to make sure that I'm strong enough. And I've been in my private life, in my family life, everything's got to be, try and be the best that you can be, everything. And again, the BMT bar can be different heights in different aspects of your life, whether it's business, sport. And again, sport just happens to be one of the things that I've succeeded in, and business. And then family is also important. I've been married for 32 years and together for 39 years. So it's not too bad. 37 years.
Okay, excellent. No, that's it. Thanks very much, Oscar.
Thanks, Conrad. Ian.
Yeah, just picking up on what Oscar was saying. My son went to Pretoria Boys High, and they had an amazing ethos there, that they did everything across the board. So they selected people. The headmaster interviewed my son. He didn't interview us. We sat there, but he interviewed Travis. And their ethos there was very much sport, obviously orientated, but they took people in right across the board. I mean, they had some amazing actors, they had some amazing musicians, they had an orchestra, they had a pipe band. And the fact is that these kids who weren't necessarily great at sport were able to find their BMT and what they were able to achieve in whatever it was. And we used to go to these functions and these plays, which were, you know, all men, all boys, and listen to the orchestra, the pipe band, and it was absolutely amazing culture in the school, because it wasn't always sport driven, which a lot of schools are, but right across the board. And I think that was what inspired and motivated people and gave these kids confidence, because they could excel in whatever areas that they took their fancy.
Great, thanks, Ian. Herman.
Thank you very much, Oscar. The way I understand and read your kind of competing, I think your primary objective was competing with yourself. You set your standard and you wanted to exceed those standards. And I think we need to make a distinction with regards to competition. I worked for a corporate company which was one of the leading companies in its field in the world. Yet there was internal competition. It was highly politicized, and the various competitors would create obstacles for each other in order to beat the opponent, so to speak. In other words, to get the promotion, etc., etc. And that, for Trevor's info, that is the kind of competition which I absolutely despise. By the way, that company I'm referring to, as that was one of the biggest in the world in its field, it doesn't even exist anymore, simply because of things like a wrong understanding of how to compete. I strongly have that inclination to compete against myself. I'm 82 and I do sport every day, and quite challenging. And I do that because, similar to you, I want to be able to be an example, if you like, what is possible even at old age. Thanks.
Great, thanks, Herman. Oscar, I'd love to hear your insights in terms of, I mean, you've built large international businesses and organizations. How do you deal with those sort of internal issues? What is the culture, the ethos that you put in place to manage those environments?
Yeah, so I obviously had a lot of staff and big Citadel companies, and the secret of success, and again, there's not one rule fits everybody. Again, remember this, just giving you my perspective, is that you respect everybody and you try and pull them up to you as opposed to them trying to pull you down to them. I mean, it's a very different feeling. Pulling them up, you can do better, you can do it. And again, and the great Steve Jobs, and I really read his book 3 or 4 times, and I really like what he did. He got the best out of people, not by stepping on other people's to get to the top, but by pulling everybody up with them and saying, okay, let's do it as a collaborated team effort, and let's get to what Oscar expects us to do. And I used to know, if you rather respect people and make them feel good about themselves, and of course they're going to have these mini failures, and the mini failures are the most important time in leadership, is to take them out of those mini failures and make those little failures into successes. And that's the secret that I've always said, oh no, we failed this. Okay, that's just one way. It doesn't work. Let's go the next way. So we've done one thing, fantastic. This doesn't work, next and next and next. And I found, and I've had some partners, they're like engineers. They say, oh, no, I'm not going to try it. I know it doesn't work. I said, how do you know it doesn't work if you don't try it? And if you try it and it fails, that's a success to me. So I'm very one of those people, they get so mad. But that was a failure. No, it wasn't a failure. It was just another way. And they coined the phrase, another way how not to do it. But it's definitely a little stumbling block there's an obstacle that you actually make it into positive, into a negative, and pull everybody up with you. And none of this stepping down on people's heads and throats, trying to get to the top of especially in the corporate world. I hope that answers it.
Great, thanks, Oscar. Steve, perhaps some thoughts from you?
Yeah, nothing really at the moment. I'm just listening with interest. Thanks.
Thanks, Steve. Karina.
Yes, good morning. Just maybe a question, Oscar. You talked a little bit about goal setting. For example, your example when you were at school and decided to become a rugby champ. In this big match temperament, what role does goal setting play? Is it extremely important, or is it just something that you do in the by? What is the role of goal setting in getting to that BMT?
I think, Karina, very good question. I think goal setting is one of the most important parts, but the one that really comes just before that is planning. Planning is the most important thing. If you haven't got a goal, you can never have a plan. I mean, it's like, I'm going to race in 10 days' time. If you haven't got the 10 days' time goal, you can't do your planning. So planning comes before goal setting, but you have to have that goal. You have to have that goal, and then the planning comes up to that goal every minute, every hour, organized, planned for, so that you can achieve that goal. And I think that goal is important. And I think BMT, but it's when you plan, when you're trying to make this goal, try and collaborate with people. Think, what do you think I can do? And then you'll see your friends will always say, lift, no, you said you want to do X, I think you can do more. And that's where it really comes with the collaboration, helping other people, helping you to achieve a goal, which is a BMT goal, which is where you think you're here, but you must try and strive for there. And that's the big match, so you can actually perform much better than you thought you could do. I hope that answers.
Great, thanks. Tsela, your thoughts?
Morning, everybody. No, just listening with, with intent. Beautiful words, Oscar, and thank you again for sharing. It's always inspiring to listen to your story and to listen to you speak. You know, you can really feel the passion, and you can really feel that the words come from applied knowledge, and it's something that is very practical. Thank you for sharing, Oscar.
Great, thanks. Hello, Gavin.
Morning all. Oscar, I was really interested to hear that your dad was such a huge influence, that at 4 years old, he set the example for you. And I think we forget that our actions, we're always being watched, and our actions matter. And it's important to me that, certainly with my children, it was important, and now they're all grown up, but I see the effect of it, that I set the example. No matter how, whether I failed or not was irrelevant. The point was I tried. And that example shines through them, and that's what makes you proud as well.
Okay, thanks, Gavin. Guy, your thoughts?
Yeah, just being a good listener today, and although Oscar's sitting there relaxed, you can see the energy that, without doing lots of body language, the energy that he's putting out to the group today. And Trevor, well done for bringing Oscar back and upping the level of conversation. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Cecile, any thoughts from your side?
Hi. Yes, Oscar's story just remind. Oops, sorry. Let me just do this. Oscar's story just reminded me of with my daughter, because my children both grew up in a house that we all excelled in sport. My husband and I were South African champions in sports, and we all did sport. When my daughter was in primary school in IR Griffith, she was actually terrible in athletics, and it was such a disappointment to me, because her dad was a South African champion and I was a South African champion, and why is she so bad in athletics? But I believed in keep on going, participating, fail along the way and participating. So when she got to Greenside High, the day that she went to check out the school, we went into the big hall, and in the hall, the hall is like all these big boards with names on it, the captains of the rugby and the athletics and the swimming and all that kind of stuff. And Cindy, who was not a good athlete at that time, looked at this and she said, she looked at all the boards and she said, my name's going to be on all those boards. Because she saw James Small's name on the board. He was the the athletics captain at Greenside, and the rugby player, and this and that and the other. Well, when she started with Greenside, I don't know, for some miraculous reason, she said to me, Mook, come and watch me do athletics on the school sport. And I thought, oh, well, I'd better just go. I must be this good mother. So I went there, and I don't know, for some reason, all of a sudden, she was this big fish in the small pond, I don't know. But she was the Victrix Ledorum. For the next 5 years, she was always the Victrix Ledorum for that, and for swimming, and for netball. And the netball coach started them playing touch rugby. And in Standard 9, Cindy was in the South African touch rugby team, the junior touch rugby team that went to the World Champs. And this was hilarious. Oscar will find it hilarious as well. King Rugby, we always used to call it King Rugby. Greenside at that time was not really good with rugby. But there were Cindy and Swanello and another girl that was in the South African touch rugby team. So they got honors for rugby. So they were amongst the people in the school that wore a red blazer with a rugby scroll on it, and none of the boys wore any red blazers with a rugby scroll on it. So at the end of matric, we went back to the school and checked, and her name was on every single one of those boards. Plus, her name was also on a board that she won a Soshin Award for sportsmanship, which I am very proud of, because we were talking about it yesterday and talking about winning at all costs, which I like to win. To me, there's nothing else. But achievement is very similar to winning. But I'm not talking about giving a medal for everyone that participating. I'm talking about achievement, setting a goal and achieving your goal that you actually set for yourself. Because I have a twin sister, and we, from a small age, we used to compete with each other, and it was clean competition, not obliterating the opponents, but just clean competition. So yes, I think it's a very good thing to set a goal, and like Oscar says, tell the people around you that you set that goal, because a quiet goal doesn't help anyone. Thanks.
Great, thanks, Cecile. I think we'll have to put you on the spot in some of our future discussions and delve a bit deeper into that sporting history of your family. It sounds fantastic. Well done. Jesper, some thoughts from your side?
Morning, everybody. I want to carry on with the question of Gavin, and with my mindset very much involved with legacy, and the fact that whatever we do here right now has an impact generations after we're gone. So Oscar, have you're obviously a great achiever in many things in business and sport, and what would you say you're working towards as your legacy?
That's a very good question. It's one of those things that you just hope that what you've done in the past will just be written in the annals of history, and that people will just come back at a later stage and say, oh, gee, Oscar did this and Oscar did, because it's very difficult. And again, this is the story that when I was last year, arrogance and confidence is whether you start saying, okay, well, gee, did you know Oscar did this when he was 14 years old? He did this, this, and this, and this. And you don't want to be telling people that all the time. You want them to actually find out, he did this. And one of the things, the big thing of my legacy, I would like to realize that I was always a team player, always willing to help, always willing to come on a forum, always teaching. I mean, at the moment, I'm teaching about 10,000 people online in this lockdown. And again, I just do it for free. And if you came past me and I thought, and you paddle past more, or you're struggling in business, I would give you a help, even if you didn't want it, you know. So that is one of those things that it's just inherently in me, that I'm always there trying to help people, even if they're not asking for it. I sort of tell them it. And again, some people can take it the wrong way, but the bottom line is, in my whole life, I don't care. I can learn from anybody. And I never forget, I was in, and this is interesting, I was in the Sea of Kinneret, which is the Sea of Galilee in Israel. And there, this woman told me, no, I sit on my boat like this with my two legs over the side. And I said, oh, how long have you been paddling? I said, I've been paddling 2 years. I'm 65 years old. Nice Jewish woman. And I said, this is the way I paddle, and this is why I do it. I looked at it, I checked it out. And from that day on, I changed everything. Whatever I'd learned in the last 50 years of paddling, I learned from a 65-year-old woman that paddled for 2 years. And I said, I'm going to adapt this. And this is the way. I tell that story all the time, because I never believe I'm too clever or too old to learn. And that's something that I think comes away. And that's the legacy that I'd like to be, is that I'm never too clever. I'm never too smart. I'm never too fast. I can learn all the time, every day.
Thanks.
Right, thanks Jesper, thanks Oscar. Lee, some thoughts from your side?
You won't believe it, but I'm going to just say, well, I've been listening well and learning, and I've got lots of questions, but I'll keep them. I've really enjoyed the conversation, and I'm excited that Oscar's been a part of our group. Thanks, Oscar. Appreciate your time, and it is inspiring. I appreciate that you see that as part of the legacy that you are giving. sharing with us. And so thank you for that.
Great, thanks, Lee. And before we let Oscar go, because we are at the bottom of the hour, so we're on 8:30. I just love Oscar to comment on your question, Lee, that you put in the chat box, because I think it's a great question as well. How do we balance planning with being agile in a rapidly changing and changed world?
Yeah, I think I got half the question. I lost the last little bit, but I mean, how do you change everything in life as things
Oscar,
change?
if I can try to give it back to you again. How do we balance planning with being agile in a rapidly changing and changed world?
Okay, so how do you change? The biggest way to change is to have your goals that are always moving. A goal for today might change tomorrow. I mean, just think of me. I mean, and this is the perfect scenario. There I was racing. I'd planned my year. I'd just come out of Australia, and I was going to be racing in Guadeloupe, which I won last year. I won that race. I was 56, and I beat the second guy. I was 23, and I won a 52-kilometer race. I had all those plans. I'd already booked my flights in January to go to Guadeloupe. Everything was there. Suddenly they said, sorry, you've got cancer. Believe me, your goals change very quickly. Instantaneously, I said, oh, well, was it a week or was it 2 weeks? No, they said 1 year. So then your goal changes. The same thing with COVID-19. Everybody was going around their life absolutely normal. And suddenly they said, you're in lockdown. You've got to adapt or die. That's my thing. Adapt or die or change. Don't be stuck in your ways ever. From learning, from teaching, from anything. Really always be a dynamic person to change all the time. I think goal setting is like the weather changing. The weather becomes rainy, you take an umbrella. Even again, but you can either prepare for it, take an umbrella, even if it's sunny, or not prepare for it. Those are the things I would say, and I hope that helps.
Great, thanks, Oscar. I really appreciate that. And once again, absolute privilege having you on our chat this morning. Thank you very much for your insights and your input. I'm sure you've given us lots of food for discussion and hopefully lots of things that we can actually start to action and take forward, because I think every bit of input is absolutely precious. So an absolute pleasure, and thank you everybody for joining us this morning, and we look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow. Yeah.
Where's the photograph, Kevin?
Just a quick one. I thought I'd just put it out there quickly. It's just something that I'm doing just to try and help everybody through the COVID thing. If you have a look on the LinkedIn page, I started a thing called The Day the World Stopped to Breathe. Stories about hope and inspiration. I think in these times of people being locked down in their houses, it's not all bad. I think there's some amazing stories that can come out of this. People that have beaten drug addiction, rekindled their relationships, got closer to their sons, built great businesses, etc., etc., etc. So I'm just putting it out there. I'm looking for people to send me their stories. I want to video interview them, put it out there to the world and show the world that there are great stories that have come out of this. It's not all bad. So if you guys can get involved, I'd really appreciate it.
Thanks, Conrad. And if you want to just maybe did you put the link in the chat box? If you can, then what I'll do is I'll make sure everybody gets it. So if you can just put that link in the chat box.
Awesome.
Great.
Thanks so much.
Trevor.
So I just want to teach Herman, at least Oscar, a lesson in humility. Oscar, do you remember this? I bet you don't.
Well, I can see it's a doozy, and I can see you had no life jacket those days, and at least you're in time with Pengeli.
Notice the pedals?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're worn out.
First across the line, on the 50-miler, probably about 81 or 82 in flood. I don't even know if you were on the river that year, but
Yeah.
that boat was called the Pink Panther. And the question is, why were we first past the line? And I'm just going to show you, these were the pics that were in the Mercury and the Daily News front page for those guys. But that was the reason why we were first across the line. Do you recognize that?
Wow, no, that's good. That looks like Tomby.
That's Devil's.
That's convict. Devil's
Yep.
Cauldron.
Yep, in flood. And that particular, so tell these boys about that.
Yeah, this is the doozy, and let me tell you, it's a real tough race, and it's actually got one of the biggest rapids, and just making it through that, especially in flood, is one of the toughest parts of the doozy.
So the giggle is, and are you going to join us next Tuesday?
I think I can, yeah. Next Tuesday, okay. I'll make it. I'll make it.
Love to, and I'll tell everyone how we came in an hour before all the big boys, because they all went over Burma, and why we were here with only one photographer from, I think it was the Daily News. He was in the wrong place at the right time for us and caught us in perfect unison on this one, and I'll tell you the story about that. But from there, I'm sure Oscar was on the race. 11-time world champion, and my story that I tell my granddaughters is how I thumped Oscar that day, and Popey and Chris Kreuf and all of that sort of thing. And then my partner, he embroiders the story. Do you recognize my partner?
Mark Pengeli, yeah. Pengel.
So next week you'll tell them about my partner and what we did, okay?
Thanks.
Great, thanks.
Cheers,
Thanks, thanks everybody. Thanks for the chat, and look forward to seeing you next time. Go well, everyone.
Pleasure.
Bye.